Auburn has had some massive offseason wins, and they're gonna be underreported.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. We are joined by the Auburn message board legend, the Charlie 5, also known as Kyle Rush. You can find him over at thebarnauburn.com. The way rankings work and how a lot of folks evaluate college football teams and players and staffs, it's all through rankings. And there's a flaw in all of this. Is when you hold on to things, assets, players, coaches, staffers, it doesn't get reported. And so all of these headlines that you see on ESPN and other various national headlines, they're hiding a few things when we talk about Auburn. And so there's three major wins that aren't going to be discussed because it's not the sexy things. Things staying the way that they are isn't fun for the national media perspective, but it should be fun for you. News breaking, I guess, earlier this week, Kyle, Kenyatta Watson, it sounds like he was really flirting with Notre Dame. Notre Dame was coming at him hard, and why wouldn't you? He's fantastic. He's great at navigating, several different recruitments, but especially, folks throughout the state of Georgia and the Atlanta area. Those kids really, really love him. Auburn holding on to Kenyatta Watson is a major deal, but there's no story to write with that. Yeah. And you're not going to see it many places. And it was reported, then it fizzled out. And this is a big deal. Notre Dame just played in the national championship game. And they want Kenyatta, and Kenyatta chose to stay at Auburn.
I don't know that you could have described that whole scenario any better. Like the value of things staying the same and how important and how huge that actually is, especially the way that everything is sort of in flux and always changing in college football. Yes. Kenyatta Watson staying is absolutely massive. People made fun of me, Zach. People made fun of us when we did a whole show talking about his hiring and how important it was and how big it was. Oh, it's just an off the field staffer. It's just a guy behind the scenes.
I'm not going to lie. I thought you were bugging a little too hard. I'm not going to lie to you. I let you do it. I let you sing the song and do the dance, but Kenyatta's been nothing short of elite during his time at Auburn.
Not just high school recruiting. You look at every big name recruitment in high school that we have, his name's right in the middle of it. Deuce Knight, any of these guys from Georgia, he's always in the mix. But it's not just high school. You don't get Eric Singleton if it's not for Kenyatta Watson. The Eric Singleton, he was so confident in the fact that he had Eric Singleton locked up. He said, "Yeah, go visit elsewhere. He's locked up." That's the power that he wields. And you nailed it when you said he could have gone to the team that played for the national championship.
That'll be a theme, by the way. That will be brought up again in this very episode.
Yeah, he could have done that, and he chose to stay at Auburn. I know that Notre Dame, that will be a little bit outside of his typical comfort zone, but you get to sell Notre Dame. You get to go now. You can go sell Notre Dame to those Georgia kids, those Atlanta kids. It's a big deal. That's a big job, even if it wasn't necessarily a step up in title. You could argue that, hey, it's a promotion regardless, even if it's the same title. At this point in time, he stayed at Auburn. It's just huge, man. It's huge to keep the momentum rolling that you have on the trail. Talent acquisition, you've been killing it. Now you just got to produce the results on the field.
Yeah, and that's the next step in all of this. And if that doesn't happen this year, I do think you start to see maybe some guys leave, and they probably should at that point. Sure. If it takes this long and you can't do it with this roster, you have every right to ask questions. And I'm asking questions, right? I mean, I've been pretty outspoken of like, I don't know if I trust the scheme and trust that the offense is going to all of a sudden be able to change and score more points this upcoming season. I have my questions. I see the path on how it can make sense. But once again, we're on the outside of this. There's been several folks, and we're gonna hit on several different examples of this over the course of the show, where folks who are right in the middle of it have had better options elsewhere, and they're choosing to stay. They're choosing to believe in what Auburn is building. And Kenyatta Watson, I mean, he's getting in at the very floor level, and he's building it brick by brick at the true essence of talent acquisition. I mean, he's getting these guys that obviously coming from the high school ranks, and you mentioned the portal too, but a lot of these guys that he's bringing in, like some of these guys are going to play right away, but it's an investment in the future. And like, clearly he believes in the guys that he's bringing in. Clearly he believes in what Hugh Freeze is doing, or he wouldn't have stayed. He wouldn't have stayed because I think, pound for pound and job for job, like the Notre Dame job on paper certainly is better, but he believes in what Hugh Freeze is doing. And it just goes against this narrative of like, it's all about to fall apart for Auburn. And I'm like, when? Like, when is it happening? Because I've said it all season that, wait till the players leave. They didn't leave. Wait till the coaches leave. Wait till the staffers leave. And they're all still here, Kyle.
And it's not just this is year 2. Like they've had multiple opportunities to leave, and they just don't. It's really crazy. I could not be more excited that Kenyatta's going to stay here. I feel like that would have been a big blow. That would have been a huge.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
When rumors and reports started saying, "Hey, they're making a run for Kenyatta," what were some of the things that you were feeling and experiencing?
First off, I think I went through all the stages of grief, and thankfully he obviously stayed, but
sure,
a lot of denial. There's no way he'll do that.
Sure,
a little bit of anger. You have to go through anger. Then you're just terrified. You're just scared.
Horror,
and then sadness sets in, and then you're happy again when you realize he canceled a trip to go on an interview.
Yeah,
I think he
does love us. He does love us after all.
Totally. He's big for to continue to build this thing, and he's a big important part of it. I know he wants to be a GM. I know that's what he wants to do, and I know that pathway may not be at Auburn. So that was a little bit, hey, if I go to Notre Dame and I can reproduce the same results, then my name starts coming up for some of these big time GM jobs. I know that's probably his end goal. But he stayed, man. And I think it's going to be big. Continuity is huge when in an ever changing college football landscape. And man, retaining Kenyatta is big. It's big for my heart.
What are the odds of, like, if you are a GM and you go to gymnastics meet with your family and you're sitting in seats, of you getting kicked out? Maybe a local podcaster kicking you out of those seats at a gymnastics meet while you're holding, a child. I mean, what are the odds of that happening, you think?
Why did you bring this? Is not even related to the topic. You just really wanted to.
You brought up GM in Auburn, and I'm like, you kicked out our GM from his seats that one time.
Yes, I did not want to. It was the worst moment of my whole life. We went to the gymnastics meet against I don't even remember who we were playing because I've tried to block that whole memory out, but we get to our seats, we get season tickets. I got a young daughter, loves gymnastics, and we look and there's Will Redmond. And I mean, I've done full-length podcasts, but how much I adore this guy.
You love Will Redmond.
And my wife's like, those are our seats. And I said, sweetheart, no, we got to figure something out.
It's like, no, baby, those are his seats now. Yeah.
We can't do that. And then the seats we sat in, people showed up for. So then I was given no option. I had to be that guy. So I had to kick Will Redmond out of my seats. It's hilarious. And the whole time I'm apologizing. He's like, why are you apologizing? They're your seats. I was like, you don't understand. I'm a huge fan.
It's like you have no idea what you've done for me and my self-esteem and my happiness. You have no clue. You have no clue.
He was holding a baby. I had to kick him out of his seats while he was holding a 100% child.
100%
Infant child. not a doll, not an adolescent. It was a small baby that could not fend for himself. He had to hold it, and I had to kick him out.
And you just kicked him out.
If it was Kenyatta though, we would have just left. We would have just said, we'll catch the next one.
Maybe we're not supposed to be here tonight.
Yeah,
I was like, we got more tickets.
I actually saw him on the way in that night. It was pretty cool. So.
Wow. You just saw everybody. You saw everybody. All right. So one thing that's not going to be reported is Kenyatta Watson staying. Other things that aren't going to be publicly reported by national media that they're just overlooking because once again, lack of change is boring. It's boring in college football, but it's important. More next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Intuit TurboTax. You told me that you use Intuit TurboTax.
Every year for like the last 10 years. It's spectacular. You can just zip.
Yeah, I mean, taxes can be stressful, but it doesn't sound like they're stressful for you because you use TurboTax.
I whip through it. If you got your forms, you can take a picture and scan it in. I mean, it's crazy. You could just do it. It's a game changer. Makes it easy. Direct deposit, your refund, everything. Love it. Yep.
Give TurboTax your attention this tax season. No stressing, no worrying, no waiting. This is what tax is supposed to be. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Things staying the same. It's boring in college football. And so ESPN and other national media outlets, they're going to ignore it. One of the biggest offseason wins for the Tigers throughout the SEC was Amaris Williams entering the transfer portal and then Auburn bringing him back to the roster, bringing him back home. Why this doesn't count as a transfer portal addition, once again, it's all about the rankings, Kyle. It's all about the rankings. If for some reason this doesn't show up on Auburn's transfer portal class because he stayed, I guess it's because he was on the roster last year, they should totally count it. It's ridiculous that they don't, because this is a huge, if Amaris Williams truly hit the open market, he would have been one of the most coveted and pursued players this portal window.
Without a doubt.
And Auburn was all over it. They brought him back. They made sure he was happy, sold him on whatever he needed to be sold on. And he remains a part of this defensive front that I think has a chance to be very impressive next year when it comes to rushing the passer.
Without a doubt. It almost feels like they need to retool the way that the way they rate things. I think you need to do a full roster rating. So like, did your roster as a whole improve from year to year? Not just did you get better with incoming guys? I mean, you have to retain guys. You have to retain guys too. Like, retention is just as big until
contracts become a thing. Every player that you bring back chose you. They chose you over entering the portal.
Holy cow! When you really think of it that way, I mean, you're 100% correct. Even the guys that you don't necessarily think are at a huge risk of leaving, like they still could. You don't think
Amaris, you don't think people called Cam Coleman? You don't think people called Malcolm Simmons? You don't think people called Perry Thompson saying like, "Hey, you're like the third receiver over there. Like, what's going on? They're bringing more in. Like, come play over here." Like, you're telling me you don't think that happened?
No,
and they all chose Auburn. They all chose Auburn again.
And Amaris was a big one because I think he could be the heir apparent to Keldrick Falk. I think he could be the next big, great defensive lineman in Auburn. And he was one of that. He was foundational depth. There's a difference between just depth, bodies, and foundational depth. And he's the next man up. And this is going to be a big year for him because he takes over in 2026. So are
you reporting that Amaris Williams is the face of foundational depth at Auburn?
100%.
Okay.
100%. I think foundational depth is different than just having bodies. And I think he is the face of what the next phase of this Auburn defensive line is going to be. And I'm fired up. They got him. He's a freaky athlete, can do a lot of different things. And you retained him. It's just as big as going out and getting Chris Kelly just as big as going out and because if you lost him, you were going to have to replace him with somebody just as good. So you just kept him.
But you wouldn't have been able to replace him with somebody just as good.
And you probably would have had to overspend on somebody not as good to get that number in the room. I mean, it's huge on so many different levels.
Probably. Yeah, because I don't think Auburn's in a situation where they can risk like, okay, I hope all of the edge players stay healthy, and I hope that one of these, true freshmen are ready to play in the SEC year one and ready week one when we go to Baylor. Like, this coaching staff isn't in the situation where they can like be afforded that chance. And like Amaris is huge when it comes to that.
Yes.
Especially also with like positional versatility. I mean, I have concerns about interior defensive line. Not that the guys who aren't there can't play. I just think you need more of them. And so if you have a guy like Amaris or a guy like Keldrick, who maybe you can scoot inside and put both those guys on the field at the same time, it helps you. So to me, it's like it's even larger than just Amaris Williams, the face of foundational depth at Auburn. It's also like, we need to find a way to play you both because like, I think we're going to have to.
Yeah, keeping these guys it's great, and it probably puts a little bit of an extra stressor on you too, because it's like, okay, I got one more shot to try to get this guy, show this guy that he's going to be able to play, going to be able to be an impact. Think about this, Zach. Have you just sat down and really thought about all of the pass rushing options? I know you just mentioned interior. I'm also a little bit concerned.
I sit around and think about it all the time. Where do you want to start?
I mean,
it's actually outside of the game Saturday. It's one of my favorite things to think about right now.
I did a whole show about it. I mean, it's literally like the options you're going to have at pass. I think about some of those Steelers and Baltimore Ravens fronts where they just literally. I'm not talking about talent level. I'm just talking about where they had so many guys that were so flexible as far as what they could do. They would just show like 8 guys on the line of scrimmage, and it's like, and they're all standing up. It's like you have no idea what's about to happen.
I think they call that like the prowl
formation. Yeah, off Madden. I feel like there's going to be some opportunities to have that type of flexibility with all these different guys. I mean, Jamonta Waller didn't even play last year with a broken foot. Amaris Williams now. Chris Murray.
Chris Murray for Sam Houston State. Like, he's a dude. Like, I think he's really good.
This is one of the most, I just feel like this is one of the most versatile defensive lines all the way out to outside linebacker rosters that we've had in quite some time. And like the pass rushing options, crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got guys that you feel comfortable blitzing at linebacker with DeMarcus Riddick. And then I think Xavier Atkins, like, he certainly has the traits that project to be a good, blitzing linebacker. And then like Jared Smith, who is one of the best edge guys in the class. And he's like the sixth guy that we talk about.
He gets better every time he gets on the field.
Yeah. And then, Joe Phillips, how does he fit into this? Like, Joe Phillips is a stud. I can't wait to see him kind of take that next step. So, yeah. So once again, the players are staying. And that's something that's not going to be reported by national media, and it should be. I understand why it's not, but you guys, the everydayers, we talk about Auburn every day, and like this is why like the path to a better 2025 is here. It's the stuff that's not being discussed by national media. There's one more. There's one more massive,
maybe the biggest one of all.
It might be. And we're going to talk about Auburn beating Alabama on Saturday as well, just because we can't not talk about it. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. Alumni Hall is the best place to buy Auburn swag. Can you imagine buying Auburn swag that's not from Alumni Hall?
Can't do it. Won't do it. I went there late last week. We went to one of the baseball games over the course of the weekend. I'm like, I need more Auburn baseball stuff. So I stocked up. My kiddos got some stuff as well. The wife got stuff because they have stuff for everyone over at Alumni Hall. They've got 3 great physical locations: Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville. Quick power rankings of the locations, just real quick. Go. Auburn, Opelika, Huntsville.
Okay, great. And then you also can go to alumnihall.com as well. They're also running a big discount on all the Under Armour stuff. So if you want,
wonder why.
You want a good deal, Can't imagine why. But if you want a good deal on all the Under Armour stuff, they've got like jerseys and stuff that are like 40 and 50% off. Like that's your thing. Like
I may have to go get a kiddo jersey. I think
I think they'd love it. I think they'd love it. So yeah, alumnihall.com or any of their 3 great physical locations. We love Alumni Hall. We always say it. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. The other thing that folks aren't going to report, other than, what we saw in that 12-hour news cycle, DJ Durkin staying in Auburn is a huge deal. We talked about Notre Dame going after Kenyatta Watson. We said that Notre Dame played the national championship. They lost to Ohio State. Ohio State, they won. They won. They are the national champs. They called DJ Durkin. He chooses to stay. Sure, Auburn throws a little more money his way. I think it's well-deserved, whatever. And then you look and they hire like Matt Patricia to be their defensive coordinator. It's like, wow. Wow.
They chose DJ Durkin over Matt Patricia. It's crazy.
Yeah, a former NFL head coach. Like, think about that.
That's wild.
Think about that. And like, I'm a Pats fan. Like, I've cheered for Patricia for a long time, and it's like, that's interesting. That's interesting for sure. So to me, we've said it over and over and over again, but there's going to be lists and all of top off-season hires or whatever. And DJ Durkin's not going to be on there because he stayed. Because he stayed. But if Auburn would have gone out to get, where would that offseason hire have been for Ohio State if they went to get DJ Durkin? Can you imagine how propped up that hire would have been?
Oh, they'd have been up there near the top. And think about it from this aspect too. Look,
go ahead.
DJ Durkin, unfortunately, has to do a lot to sort of rebuild DJ Durkin to the point where I'm sure he's only 47 years old. Like, he's still got a lot of coaching left. He wants to be a head coach. I mean, putting possibly a national championship defensive coordinator on your resume, like, you have that opportunity at Ohio State every single year with all of the talent. Like, how much does that expedite? How much does that like speed up the process of you getting to where you're in a position to be a head coach? It's criminal that he's not already in those discussions, but it just kind of is what it is. It sort of benefited Auburn a little bit. But I mean, that to me, and then choosing to stay at Auburn.
Sure.
I mean, holy cow. He could have been, I mean, I don't know that I could have done that. You get to go play with all those kids. You get to go coach all those kids.
Right.
Man, it's big. It's big. It's not going to make headlines, like you said, but I would say that's probably bigger than any hire of anybody this year. Auburn being able to retain DJ Durkin with everything that he's done, the head coach of the defense.
Yes.
Somebody you can just say, hey, you got it. You go handle it.
Yeah.
And it's been an awesome product he's put on the field.
So just wanted to share those 3 headlines that aren't going to be like, they were there for like 5 minutes. They've gone away, and they're not going to be on any of these lists. We're about to hit list season heavy, and those aren't going to show up because they're not in new spots. Auburn held on to them, or they went into the portal and held on to them, or they extended them, whatever that may be. So just keep that in mind when you're like, man, all these lists, and it's like all these top 10 lists, and Auburn's not on any of them. Think about this. Think about Kenyatta Watson staying, choosing Auburn over Notre Dame, holding on to guys like Amaris Williams, and then obviously holding on to DJ Durkin. He chose Auburn over Ohio State. So just think about those things. Think about those things. Also, another thing I just encourage you to think about: Auburn beating Alabama in Coleman. How often have you thought about that this week?
It's been a lot since Saturday. Most of the evening.
Almost nonstop.
Nonstop. I've consumed so much content. Like, I've consumed mass amounts of content going back and rediscussing that game. I mean, I've watched content in foreign languages and subtitles just to watch. I mean, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel now, trying to consume Auburn versus Alabama content. It's great, man. And it's, I know the Alabama aspect of it ramps it up to like level 100, but just the fact that Auburn's knocked off the number 2 team in the country in their own house and pretty much dominated them, controlled it. Every time they got close, we let them get a little close, and then 7-0 run just like that, and kind of slam the door. The way they did it was fun. hitting big shots, the 3-point barrage there in the second half. Every time they hit a shot, we'd go back and answer, and that had to just be soul crushing. It's been fun. I have not disliked it one bit.
Yeah, I mean, Tahad Pettifer just does not care about your feelings. He just doesn't. I mean, just the ice in his veins. So where like they tie it up, it's like 6 minutes left or something like that.
That was such a crucial possession too. There's no guy on a rebound. There's nobody there for a rebound. There's nobody anywhere.
There was no doubt he was going to miss it though. I mean, he just dribbles it down there. I think it's tied at 63 apiece, and it's just 2 seconds into the shot clock. Pop.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It wasn't
absolutely electric.
It wasn't like a necessary shot. Like you didn't necessarily like have. It wasn't one of those you had to have shots. Who cares? I'm going to go down. I'm feeling it right now. I'm going to put it right in your eye. And he did.
He's him.
It was great. Kind of hope we can keep him for another year.
Yeah. A month ago, I'm like, I don't think he'll go pro. Now I'm like, gosh, I really hope he doesn't go pro.
He does something. He just does some things that you just don't see very often at the collegiate level. Like you don't see that confidence. You don't see that swagger going to the hole like he did a couple of times. One time it was absolutely criminal when Dylan got fouled out. I've watched that replay now multiple times, and he took a huge shot from triple single. I mean, a huge shot, slid him up under the bleachers just about. No fear.
Right.
He's going to be triple single forever, by the way, just because of all of the hype around the greatest portal edition in the history of mankind in basketball, preseason #1. Dude can't score double digits. It's crazy.
Well, you hate to see it.
I love to see it, actually.
I hate to see it. And then I love Bruce Pearl afterwards just saying, like, it's time to start talking about Denver Jones is the best defensive player. And it's like what he did to Marcus. Did you see the thing? I wish I remember who posted it, but it's like we need to start calling him Kmart.
Okay, you got to tell me. I haven't seen this, so what? Help
you got to start calling Denver Jones Kmart because he shut down Sears.
That's fantastic. I mean, I don't know. I guess that happened, but that's absolutely
still funny.
Fantastic. I don't care. Man, he did shut him down. He shuts down everybody that he plays. And I said multiple weeks ago, if Denver hits shots, you cannot beat Auburn. If Denver hits shots, you cannot beat Auburn. You may not be able to beat Auburn if he doesn't hit shots, but if Denver hits shots, go ahead, go to at halftime, get you a hamburger, get you some nachos, and then just go home because there's no point in coming back out.
Right.
I always go with hamburger and nachos. Those are typical concession stand foods.
Yeah, those are two good options for
Sour
sure.
Patch, those sour straws, they typically have those at the so go get you some of that. Have you a nice little snack and then go home because you can't win if Denver's hitting shots.
Yeah, you hate to see it. How can people check out everything that you've got going
Absolutely.
on?
Sign up for thebarnauburn.com. Take 25% off your annual membership. Hey, guess who we have helping cover baseball? None other than 2022 SEC Player of the Year, Sonny DeShera.
GOAT.
That's a member of the Barn, posting his weekend breakdown. If you love baseball, there is no better place to get baseball coverage. I mean, it's incredible. And then you have all the different shows that we have at the Barn Auburn YouTube page. You got your show, my show, basketball show, baseball shows, all kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. You need to check it out, be a part of it.
Yes, please go do that. thebarnauburn.com. It's a great time. It's a great time. Please like the video. Please subscribe if you're watching it on YouTube. And if you're tuning in on audio, please subscribe and leave the show a review if you haven't done so already. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.